Michael McCarthy joins me now. He's a research fellow at American University's Center for Latin American and Latino Studies. So he emerges from the long shadow of Hugo Chavez, and then he has this recession and this fleeing of the people. A lot of people saying that this election was a sham. And yet you wrote that things are not, that's not a great way to start, but you say that it's even worse. The worst may not be over for Maduro.
Yes.
The plate looks pretty full right now, but describe for us what you see as you look into the future here.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to think about is where's this headed really for the country? It's undoubtedly the case that Maduro crossed an important finish line by completing his first term in office. But the question is whether or not he's going to be able to leverage one term to be a stronger leader going forward. And look, the economy is not going to improve anytime soon. He doesn't really have enough popularity to rule in a democratic fashion, it seems. And internationally, the pressure is mounting. So it's a bit of a fortress mentality within the government at this moment. And that doesn't, suggest that there could be a potential opening, I would say, on the political front anytime soon.
So the wall is closing in, and you even say some of his supporters may be peeling off as well.
Yes, yeah, they have been for some time now.
And then he has always talked about, that the U.S. is going to come in and overthrow him. There's a certain fear factor there. Talk to me about that.
Right, well, so the pressure on Maduro is growing more and more multilateral, I would say. You also have now Latin American governments proposing sanction actions against Caracas for the first time ever. So it's the U.S. that's very concerned and is talking forcefully, undoubtedly. You've also got the Canadians and the European Union. But, what it comes down to here is that Maduro still has some backers in Beijing and in Moscow. And so although he's been checked internationally, he's not fully off balance yet.
Let me throw out this headline from a piece in the Washington Post. It was last March. Big, bold, the crisis next door. Mass exodus of desperate Venezuelans overwhelming neighboring countries. And that's been a concern. We've reported on that a lot. Does that continue? And what about the populace themselves? I mean, the situation's so dire. What do you see happening there?
Yeah, well, it's a real shame. I mean, Venezuela is a country that does have oil wealth, but it's living through an extreme social crisis. And that misery, as well as political persecution, is driving people to leave and vote with their feet. And that's because there doesn't seem to be a democratic possibility for change at the moment. So unfortunately, I think it's likely that the humanitarian crisis will grow. And this brings us back to the international front. How long can Venezuela's neighbors sustain dealing with the incorporation of Venezuelan migrants and refugees? And that's part of the reason why I think the rhetoric has really increased about the need to find a democratic transition now, that this really cannot go on very much longer without a really potentially violent event breaking out again in the country.
So what do you be looking for in the months ahead? What will be some of the tells that you'll be looking for?
Well, I think that Maduro is going to try and return to some of his traditional allies, commercially in particular, China and Russia, and see if they will pony up, if you will, and provide a little bit of financial flexibility or assistance. I'm not sure they're necessarily going to do that. They may not be in a position where they want to throw good money after bad. And so I think he's going to really hunker down as much as possible. And then the question becomes whether or not there are continued defections from the ruling coalition hierarchy. We saw recently the Supreme Court justice showed up in Orlando, Florida just this past weekend and denounced the Maduro government as a dictatorship. So that tells you pretty clearly that there's high levels of discontent within Chavismo, the ruling party movement. And it's how long that movement can sort of hold together despite these major fragmentations.
Michael McCarthy, thanks so much for your analysis. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.